Next stop, a tour of the Hall of Fame archives with Ted, the curator.
Oh, Johnny, this is something I think you're going to like. This is some things we pulled out of our collection that refers to your favorite team, the Braves.
Oh, wow. And the caps from the past sides.
Right.
Oh, and this is Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
Hammer Hank.
Yep, this Hank Aaron's hat from 1971. So,
Worn when he hit his 600th career home run.
Is that what it was? Is that what it says?
He probably thought he didn't have too many left in him. Little did he know.
Little did anybody know. So, this is really neat stuff here. This is from his Milwaukee days. This is Warren's shirt. So, anyway, now you can tell immediately how it's from Milwaukee, not Boston, as the Brave figure changed. The Brave emblem in Boston was a profile with a full headdress.
Right.
They wore that, I think, just the first year in Milwaukee, 1953, and then
went to the sort
I went to this more ornate, screaming Indian head. I remember when the Braves left Boston. They left Boston in February to go to spring training, and in the middle of spring training they switched cities. They left Boston to go to spring training, but when they left spring training they stayed in Milwaukee. So I wasn't happy, but we still had the Red Sox, which was much, much more important. I think this is the best part of this whole room. This is really this is a complete history all in one fell swoop. It's our baseball gloves. Obviously, it's number one exhibits, but there's enough here to tell the whole story. This one came in 1956. You can see it took a lot of wear. It's in really fragile shape. We have a better one on display. We tend not to put things like this on exhibit if we can help it, because it's pretty fragile. Obviously, it's not going to be used again, but any kind of movement or handling, just it's not good for it at this point in its life.
Sure. And
the mission of any museum is for the artifacts to live forever, not 10,000 years, forever. But let's go back to the beginning of history. Go back to the 1880s, and this is one of the first baseball gloves. You would have worn it, wrapped around here. So
it's literally just protecting the palm.
Yeah, all this is just a pad on your palm.
Right.
And you may see some baseball cards from the mid-1800s and mid-1880s where some of the guys wore two. Because the game, even though the rules are the same, the game in a lot of ways was really different. This one kind of transcends the turn of the 20th century. This was used in the late 1890s and probably a little after by John McGraw, who was a prominent ball player with a team called the Baltimore Orioles, not the same Orioles as today. And then ultimately became manager of the New York Giants for a number of years. But this is a wonderful glove. You can see it's very, very fragile.
Sure.
I shouldn't even be picking it up. Till we get to Lou Gehrig. Okay, let's talk about Lou Gehrig.
Yeah.
This one was he wore during his college days. This he wore during his baseball career. But even so, you can see that in those days, baseball was a two-handed sport. People my age, kids my age, when we were little kids, always told to use two hands, but there was a reason. The gloves weren't quite like they are today. Now you don't need two hands. But this is a post-war glove worn by Joe DiMaggio. Now you see that there's a lacing that's holding the fingers together.
Right.
Basically the same glove as we saw a little bit earlier. But now this is a new articulation in the glove, just something that holds the fingers together. Makes it a little bit less of a two-handed game, but even so, still not like the baskets that the players use today.
Wow, the bats.
This is part of our 1,500 bats we have in the collection. Every one of them has a story to tell, but I think you want to hear about Ruth. Yeah, there we go. This is one of his bats. You can hold that.
Is that okay?
Sure.
There you go. George Babe Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be a bat that he's used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you also collect bats that are sort of infamous rather than famous, like corked bats, for instance?
Well, we have this famous Sammy Sosa corkback incident a year ago.
Right.
We have 5 bats in our collection used by Sosa that hit significant home runs. All 5 of those bats were brought to the local hospital and x-rayed.
Wow.
And they were fine. There was nothing wrong with them. The interesting thing about it was that about 6 months later we were doing some work and we actually found a cork bat from 1909. A significant cork bat from the World Series 1909.
No.
Which leads us to ask the question, what is the evolution of the rule? So now that has spurred our interest, and we'll go forward now and try to dig out when did it become so controversial. Here's a bat. This is what they call a trophy bat, but this is a bat from the 19th century. But look at the, I mean, it's a real bat. It's just that it's been then, they've had a plate put on it to honor somebody, but you can see the shape of that.
It's completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
God, that's heavy as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that the same wood?
Yeah.
How many bats have you got?
There's about 1,500 bats.
You need a lot of space.
They all have a story.
And when you look at how much has been donated over the years, how do you decide what to put on display for the paying customer and what stays down here in storage?
Well, basically, what we do is, if it's new stuff, we'll kind of watch in the season day by day. Old stuff, if we're going to tell a story, we have to go back in time. We'll do two things. We'll go in two different directions. One is you'll go and you'll get the facts. What is the story? And then you'll look at what artifacts we have in the collection, and is there anything in there to support the story? So that's what happens. These things will come out of storage and onto display. If we're doing an exhibit that calls for for some visual support, which these would be, like as I said, these 1911 trophies, none of them are on display until this year.
So on that basis, you've got 4 of those, so you're not going to miss one of them. So you won't mind me having one.
Yeah, right.
It's always worth a try, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's bye-bye Cooperstown, Philadelphia. Here we come. Hey guys, I'm looking at the clock, 560 miles, and there it is, downtown Philadelphia. Well, here we are in the inner sanctum of the Citizens Bank ballpark, and we get our first look at the turf. And there in right field, you can see it's a hitter's park, big time, 330 yards, but a bit of distance to center field.
He was raised here. How come I live in America and I have an English accent? It's where you grew up.
Well, we're 5 minutes away from game time. We've travelled just shy of 4,000 miles to be here. And yes, the rain covers are on. What have I done to deserve this? I made a point of drafting you in my fantasy baseball team. Can I be optimistic for the second half of the season?
Well, the trend is I usually, the times where I've gotten hurt, I've done all right when I got out the DL. So hopefully it works out for you.
I hope so too. You disappointed with the performance there?
We got beat 10-2. What am I be disappointed about? So, first of all, that question, there's no merit for that question. These guys have been playing hard the whole year. There's no merit for that. Well, every time you get beat, you're supposed to browbeat your players?
We're from England, from the Channel 5 show.
Oh, okay.
On Major League Baseball. Are you a Manchester United fan?
I'm just a soccer fan, completely.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Well, if you want to support a decent side, I've got some Chelsea shirts. I'll be happy to let you have.
Okay, definitely, definitely.
Well, it's good night to Citizens Bank Park. Good night, Philadelphia. And thankfully, good night, Larry Bowa. Well, that's it. What a trip, eh? 4 days, about 750 miles. I've met 4 Hall of Famers. We've done Cooperstown, met the Braves, watched them win, seen about 10 home runs, Jim Thome, Pudge, Andrew Jones. It's been a trip of a lifetime. my thanks to Clive Russell and Major League Baseball. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the insight, getting behind the scenes. I certainly have never experienced anything like it. But take it from me, don't watch it on TV. Come and live it for real. Live the dream yourself.
Live the dream yourself indeed. If Jonny and Clive's adventure inspires any of you to undertake your own road trip for next season, then I think our job is done. Remember, it's up to you to awaken your own baseball inner child.